I came home for Christmas expecting the usual chaos. Burnt cookies, off-key carols, my mom yelling at the cat, but what I got instead was a house so quiet I thought I had walked into the wrong place. The lights were on. The tree blinked in the corner with a dying kind of cheer, but the air was still. Too still. "Hello," I called out. A soft voice answered from the kitchen. "In here, baby." I turned the corner and saw her. My grandmother Agnes sitting alone at the kitchen table. She was still wearing her lavender cardigan, the one with the mismatched buttons. A plate of leftover green bean casserole sat untouched in front of her. Her hair was pulled back with a crooked clip. Her eyes met mine and something in them sank into my chest. "Where's everybody?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just slid a piece of paper toward me like it was a death sentence. I picked it up. "Used your $9,000 loan for the family's holiday trip. Bahamas. Don't worry, Grandma's all yours for the week. Love, Mom." I read it again, slower this time, as if the words might change. That $9,000. It was for my surgery. My spinal surgery. I'd worked 2 jobs, given up every weekend for almost a year. Skipped meals, skipped rest, and now it was funding palm trees and poolside daiquiris. My jaw clenched so tight it felt wired shut. Grandma's hand trembled as she took a sip of apple juice. "They left yesterday morning," she said, not looking at me. "Didn't want to wake you." I sat down. Hard. My body folded like it couldn't hold itself up anymore. No call. No text. Just gone. She gave a short, bitter laugh. "Sweetheart, when was the last time they called you for anything except money?" "Touché. My name's Leo. I'm 27. I've paid for my parents' mortgage. Once I co-signed my younger brother's car lease. I helped my sister move into her 5th apartment in 3 years. Every time they said, 'We'll pay you back,' they never did. But I always nodded, I always helped. Because I believed that if I gave enough, they'd see me. This time was different. This time I just nodded once, and something inside me snapped clean. That night, Grandma went to bed early. She kissed my cheek, gave my arm a soft pat, and whispered, "You were always the only one who stayed." Then she limped up the stairs, one slow step at a time. No one ever got her the hip surgery she needed, I offered. They said she'd be fine. I stayed downstairs for hours staring at the note on the fridge. $9,000. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat in the dark, feeling something cold, replace whatever warmth I used to associate with the word home. I checked the family group chat. Dead silence, not even a Merry Christmas. Just an old message from October. "Leo, transfer the loan to Dad's account by Monday. We're locking in cruise prices. Loan, not gift, never gift." Because they knew it wasn't theirs. They called it temporary. Said I'd understand family first. "Mom told me you can delay the procedure. What's a few more months?" The next morning I knew where they were, the Celestial Harmony, a 5-star cruise liner doing the Caribbean loop. I found out from my sister Sadie's Instagram post. There they were, all 4 of them, in white robes, champagne in hand. The caption, "Finally. Peace away from the beggars and drama." Beggars. I laughed, I actually laughed. They left me with a used-up fridge and a fragile woman who hadn't had a decent meal in days and called me the drama. That's when I knew. I was done being the nice one. Grandma found me in the garage later that evening, knees deep in my dad's old filing cabinet. Tax forms, insurance claims, pension stubs. She didn't say anything at first, just watched. "I want to know where the money's going," I said. Every penny, every swipe of her card, every fake emergency. She didn't even blink. Just reached for an old notebook from her sewing box and said, "Let's start with when your mom got my social security login." That was 2017. By midnight, we had pages of notes. ATM withdrawals she never made, online purchases from stores she didn't know existed. Grandma's card had paid for Sadie's iPad, for Josh's fantasy football league, for takeout ordered while she sat here with frozen soup. This wasn't a one-time betrayal. It was a long, slow bleed. I made a spreadsheet. I made copies. I made a plan. They came back 5 days later. Loud tan. Smelling like vacation and entitlement. Sadie stormed in first, dragging a luggage bag that probably cost more than my car. "Ugh, did anyone water the fern? It looks dead." Behind her was my mom. Carrie in sunglasses and a white linen wrap. She looked around like the place disgusted her. "You couldn't even clean before we came back?" she asked. My dad, Hank, walked in next. He looked sunburned, bloated, and already annoyed. "You're still here," he grunted at me. Josh, my younger brother, came last. Didn't say a word, just tossed his bags onto the couch and turned on the TV. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just sat at the kitchen table, same chair, same spot as 5 nights ago. There's lasagna in the fridge, I said. Still got leftovers. Josh chuckled. Dude, just order something. You're not broke, are you? I stood up. Glad you're all here, I said. Sit down. They didn't move. I said sit. Something in my voice must have landed because they did. I turned my laptop around, pressed play. The video began with a screen recording of Grandma's bank account. Every withdrawal, every suspicious transaction, cross-referenced with dates, devices, and IP addresses. Their devices. Mom's voice cracked. Where did you get this? From the account you didn't bother logging out of on Grandma's tablet. Then came the screenshots, Sadie Venmoing herself $300 for utilities while listing mani-pedi in the notes. Josh using Grandma's card for gaming upgrades. Dad rerouting his bar tab through PayPal linked to her pension. You're exaggerating, Mom snapped. I clicked to the next slide, emails. Don't worry, Leo won't notice, he's soft, he still thinks we care. They froze. I didn't. One last file, a voice note. It was my cousin Jordan, Mom's niece, whispering into her phone. They planned the whole thing. Said Leo was too sentimental to push back. Grandma begged them not to go. They laughed. The room turned cold. I can stop here, I said, but I won't. I opened another tab. An email draft. Subject line, Elder Financial Abuse. Immediate attention required. To County Social Services Federal Retirement Watchdog. Elder Fraud Division, and 6 local reporters. Attachments every file. You have 48 hours, I said, to return every cent. Or this gets sent, no bluff, no second chances. They didn't speak. Grandma stood beside me, hands shaking but voice steady. I fed you, clothed, you gave you every piece of myself, and this is how you repay me. Sadie sobbed. Mom muttered, we didn't mean. Grandma cut her off. I hope you enjoyed your cruise. It's the last thing you'll ever steal from me. They didn't believe me. Even after I showed them the files, even after Grandma spoke up clearer than I'd heard her speak in years, they still thought I was bluffing. Josh scoffed, tried to call my bluff with a smirk. You wouldn't dare ruin your own family over some receipts. Some receipts. That money was for spinal surgery, I said, not yelling. Just steady. Do you even know what a herniated disc feels like, Josh? No, then shut up. My mom's face darkened. You've always been dramatic. And you've always been a liar, I said. No one moved. That was the thing about people like them. They thrived in chaos, in shouting matches and slammed doors, but I wasn't giving them that. I was giving them silence. Precision deadlines. 48 hours. I repeated. Starting now. Then I left the room. No arguments, no fights. Just the sound of Sadie crying into her overpriced tote bag and my dad muttering under his breath about being disrespected in his own house, their house, that I'd paid the mortgage on twice. The first 24 hours were silent. No apologies, no texts, nothing. Grandma and I spent the day organizing. I set up a folder on a cloud drive with everything we needed. Transaction logs, screenshots, voice memos, phone records. She cooked while I labeled every file like a surgeon prepping for operation. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about truth. It was about dignity. That night, I heard her humming while making soup I hadn't heard her hum in years. By the second day, still no response. So I clicked send. Every email went out at once. Social Services, Pension Protection Agency, County Elder Abuse Hotline. Even 2 reporters, one local, one regional, both known for covering financial exploitation cases. Within 3 hours, I had my first reply. Thank you for your submission. Your case has been received and flagged for urgent review. A representative will contact you shortly. And suddenly the silence broke. Day 3, 6:14 a.m. My phone buzzed non-stop. 12 missed calls from Sadie. 5 from my mom. 1 from a number I didn't recognize. Probably my dad borrowing someone's phone. The first message I opened was from Josh. You're seriously doing this? Over money? You're insane, Leo. Then from Mom. Please, take the post down. We'll talk. Don't destroy the family over something so small. Something so small? I didn't reply. I just forwarded everything to our attorney, Fiona. A no-nonsense woman with a steel spine and 0 patience for emotional blackmail. She called me that afternoon. They can scream all they want, she said. You're not the criminal, they are. By noon, Fiona had sent official notices of intent to sue certified delivery 4 letters. 2. Carrie Matson. Mom: Henry Matson. Dad: Joshua Matson. Brother: Sadie Matson's sister. The charges: elder financial exploitation, unauthorized pension access, misuse of funds from a documented medical loan, with interest, penalties, and damages. $5,287.50. I slept better that night than I had in years. The next evening, there was a knock at the door. It was my mom. No makeup. Her hair in a messy bun. She looked 10 years older than she had 3 days ago. "Can we talk?" she said, her voice trembling. I leaned against the doorframe. "Only if you came with a checkbook." She pulled out a manila envelope. Inside a cashier's check for $9,000. I held it up. "Where's the interest?" "You're lucky to get that," she snapped. "You've humiliated this family. You're turning your back on your own mother." "No," I said, stepping outside and letting the door close behind me. "I'm finally turning my back on a thief." That same week, Sadie called. From her work number. "Leo," she said, voice cracking, "please, I didn't know they used Grandma's card. I just asked Mom for help with bills. I saw the Sephora charges I cut in and the massage packages. It wasn't like that. You called me a leech." She went quiet. "It was a joke," she whispered. "It was a truth you were too cowardly to say to my face." Silence again. Then softly, "I'm getting fired." Apparently, one of the journalists had reached out to her employer. The story was gaining traction. Headline: Family abandons. Elderly grandmother on Christmas after stealing son's surgery money. The screenshots. All public now. Sadie's Venmo transactions. Josh's game purchases. Mom's cruise itinerary. It all painted a picture that wasn't just ugly, it was undeniable. Josh tried to act unbothered. Posted an Instagram story of himself at the gym captioned, "Too blessed to be stressed, can't touch me." Cute, but not smart. Because that same day, Fiona filed a wage garnishment motion with the state. By the end of the week, 20% of his paycheck was getting redirected into Grandma's new account. Guess who wasn't posting gym selfies after that? The money came back in waves. $9,000 from my parents. $3,150 from Sadie, including interest after I refused to accept her apology unless it came with exact cents. $2,500 from Josh. After his girlfriend left him, called him a coward, and moved out. Total $14,650. I used $3,000 for my long-delayed surgery consultation. Another $2,000 for a proper reclining lift chair for Grandma. The rest? It went into an interest-bearing account in both our names, with one condition. Only she and I could touch it. When I handed her the paperwork, she cried, not because of the money, but because finally someone had protected her. That night we had dinner at her favorite diner. She ordered pancakes at 7 p.m. and dipped them in maple syrup like a child. "I missed this," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the heart attack platter?" She grinned. "I'd rather die laughing with you than eating stolen shrimp with those snakes." We laughed until her glasses fogged up. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. But peace, I learned, has its ghosts. For a while, things were silent again. Not the kind of silence that used to make me feel small. This one had weight. Purpose, like the house was finally breathing again without having to brace for another demand, another insult wrapped in a smile. But even peace has ghosts. They didn't call. Not once. But they talked. Oh, they talked. It started with a post from Sadie on Facebook. "Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself." A photo of her lighting a candle at some overpriced boutique church. The comments were all vague, lots of, "You're so strong and haters gonna hate," but one caught my eye. "Girl, are you okay?" "Is this about the article?" I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Then came Mom. She started working the extended family circuit. Whispered phone calls, long sighs, and half-truths. "Leo's been acting strange. We're just so worried about his mental health. He manipulated Agnes. She's not well." You know, it would have been hilarious if it weren't so vile. They used Grandma's name, the same woman they left behind with half a casserole, and no heating, like she was a pawn in their game of emotional checkmate. What they didn't realize, she wasn't just in the game now. She was on my team. Josh went full unhinged. He posted a video rant on TikTok about toxic siblings while using a trending audio from Succession. "Some people would rather watch you burn than build with you," the caption read. In the background, a blurry screenshot of my face at our last family dinner. The comment section roasted him so hard, he turned off replies within an hour. I laughed for 5 minutes straight. Build with you, I said out loud. You couldn't even build a sandwich without Grandma's pension card. They were rewriting the narrative, making me the villain. But this time I had the receipts. And unlike them, I didn't need to scream to be heard. The story was already out there. Every time they posted, someone remembered. Every lie was followed by a comment reminding them who they really were. And still, I didn't respond. Because silence, when weaponized properly, is a masterpiece. 3 weeks later, I was grocery shopping with Grandma. We were in aisle 5 arguing over whether ginger ale counted as medicine when a woman stopped us. Older, stylish, quiet elegance. Her eyes went straight to Grandma. "Excuse me," she said gently. "I don't mean to interrupt, but are you the grandson?" From the article. I tensed. She smiled. "I just wanted to say thank you for standing up, for speaking out, my mother. They did the same thing to her, but no one fought for her. I wish someone had." She touched my arm just a moment and walked away. I turned to Grandma. She wasn't smiling. She was crying. "I didn't think anyone saw us," she whispered. I squeezed her hand. "They do now." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what that woman said about all the others who never got their justice, who suffered quietly because no one dared break the silence. And I realized this was never just about the money, or even revenge. It was about truth, saying it, living it, owning it. A few days later, I made a decision. I moved. Nothing dramatic. No, I'm leaving this toxic dump monologue. Just packed a truck, signed a lease, and drove away. A clean apartment. 2 bedrooms. One for me, one for Grandma. No beige curtains she didn't like but kept anyway. No moldy fridge, no ghosts. She called her room the fort. Decorated it with old photos and a quilt she crocheted back in 1993. She said it felt like hers. Because it was. One night a few weeks in, she knocked on my door. "Can I ask you something?" she said, sitting slowly on the edge of my bed. "Of course. When you read that note, the one they left, why didn't you just leave? Why stay?" I paused. Thought about it. Then I said, "Because I remembered who I was before they made me forget." She nodded slowly. "I'm proud of you, Leo." And that broke me more than anything they'd ever said. Because she meant it. And no one else ever had. 2 months passed. Josh still hadn't paid the last $200 he owed. Fiona sent him a final notice. He posted a passive-aggressive meme about family lawyers ruining holidays. I sent him a laughing emoji and blocked him. Sadie tried to launch a wellness coaching TikTok channel. It flopped. Her first video had 18 views and a single comment. "Didn't you steal your grandma's retirement money?" She deleted the account in 48 hours. Mom tried to start a cooking channel on YouTube. Cozy Kitchen with Carrie. First video, lemon bars. Top comment. "Did you pay for that oven with your mother's pension?" Gone. 2 days later. Poof. They couldn't rebuild their image because the foundation was rot. Every brick they laid collapsed under the weight of the truth. They told themselves I ruined the family, but all I did was stop cleaning up their mess. Somewhere in the chaos, I reconnected with Kelly, Josh's ex, ran into her outside a coffee shop. She looked lighter, brighter, like someone who finally exhaled. She was taking night classes, working towards certification in counseling. Said she wanted to help women who'd been through emotional abuse. "I didn't know I could live like this," she told me, without being afraid of what he'd say or do next. Then she looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "You didn't just change your life, Leo. You gave the rest of us permission to change ours." And that's when it finally hit me. This story, my story, wasn't just a confession or a blow-up or a well-deserved slapback. It was an invitation. To anyone still nodding along, still getting drained, still hoping that maybe this time they'll love you back the way you love them. To finally stop begging. To finally stand up. To finally leave the table when love is no longer being served. I stopped expecting their names to pop up on my phone. It took time. Took effort. Every instinct told me to check, to wait, to wonder if maybe this time someone was going to say sorry and mean it. They didn't. And maybe that was the most freeing part. Not because I got revenge, but because I no longer needed anything from people who weaponized my love against me. I started living slower. Grandma and I built new routines. Tuesdays were for pancakes, Fridays for puzzles, Saturdays for going to thrift stores and buying absolutely nothing we needed. She liked this little park near the apartment. Had a koi pond, one sad little fountain, and a bench that always got too much sun. She called it her throne. We'd sit there for hours, just breathing. One day, she leaned over and said, "This is the first time in years I felt like someone's grandmother and not someone's burden." I didn't know what to say, so I just held her hand. Of course, peace doesn't mean erasure. They still tried. Quietly, pathetically. Mom sent me a birthday card that year. One of those generic ones with glitter roses and no personality. Inside in shaky cursive, she wrote, "We all make mistakes. Family is forever." I didn't respond. Didn't even keep the card. Because when someone's only attempt at reconnection is a guilt trip disguised as a greeting, they're not reaching out, they're reaching backward. I was done living in reverse Josh. He tried messaging from a burner account. Leo man to man. We were out of line, but this vendetta crap? It's too much. Vendetta. That word stuck with me, like I had burned their house down in the night and danced on the ashes when all I'd done was ask for my own money back. I forwarded the message to Fiona. She sent him an official cease and desist. He went quiet after that. Sadie, though, she couldn't handle the silence. Her life revolved around being seen, performing, controlling the narrative. And now, every story she tried to tell was hijacked by the truth. She went dark online for a while, then came back with a new handle at Sadie Reset. Inspirational quotes. Yoga poses grainy sunset shots with captions like, "She who is free from bitterness is the strongest of all." I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly saw my brain. But I didn't comment, didn't post, didn't warn anyone. Because anyone looking closely could see the cracks. Authenticity doesn't need filters. And her whole brand was built on trying to scrub the past with Canva quotes and fake humility. Grandma got stronger too. Physically, sure, we got her. That home nurse got her walking short distances without pain, but emotionally. She started smiling with her whole face again. The limp never fully went away, but her voice, it did something new. It carried. She even got snappy sometimes, sarcastic in a way that told me the fire hadn't died. It had just been smothered too long. One night we were eating spaghetti and she said, "You think your mom still thinks I'm too senile to notice when she steals?" I nearly choked on my meatball. Then we both laughed until tears rolled down our faces. A month later, I got a letter. Official sealed government envelope. It was from the Office of Elder Affairs. An update on the report I filed. The short version. Our case had prompted them to launch an internal review of pension access abuse. They were reevaluating the security around caregiver access and planned to introduce a new fraud alert program. Grandma read the letter twice, then folded it, held it to her chest and said, "So they finally listened." "They had to," I said. "No," she whispered, "they chose to because someone finally screamed loud enough." I smiled. Because the thing was, I didn't scream. I documented. Sometime in late spring, I got a call from a local nonprofit. They worked with Adult Protective Services and wanted to feature our story anonymously as part of their campaign to raise awareness around elder financial abuse. "Would you be comfortable speaking on camera?" the woman asked. "We can blur your face and change your voice?" I looked at Grandma. She shrugged. "You can show mine," she said. "Just don't let them Photoshop my wrinkles." I earned every one. We agreed. The video went viral slowly at first, then with the kind of quiet momentum that sticks. People commented by the hundreds. This happened to my aunt. "I wish I had done something. My own brother did the same thing to our dad. Thank you for showing it's okay to fight back." We didn't name names, didn't need to. The people who needed to know knew. The people who needed to see themselves in that story, they did. That video wasn't revenge. It was a mirror. And it terrified the people who could only live in shadows. Summer rolled in quietly. We got a small garden going on the balcony, just herbs and tomatoes. Grandma named the basil Edward for reasons I never fully understood. I started freelancing full-time. No more Uber, no more side gigs. That left me running on fumes. I had time now. Energy breath. One afternoon, we were listening to music in the living room. Her Frank Sinatra vinyls crackling like old fireplaces when she turned to me and asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I didn't answer right away. "I miss the version of them I hoped existed," I said, "but not the ones who left a note instead of saying goodbye." She nodded. "That's fair." And we let the record spin all the way to the end. Some nights I'd still feel it. Not sadness, not rage. Just gravity? A tug in my chest like I was mourning something I never got to hold. The version of family that only existed in my head. The one that cared, that remembered, that loved without receipt or transaction. But healing, I've learned, isn't about never feeling that pull. It's about not chasing it anymore. The week the article hit the national wire, everything changed. It wasn't just local buzz anymore. It was everywhere. Online forums, elder abuse watchdog blogs, even a blurb on a morning news show. Grandson exposes family fraud and viral campaign. They didn't use names, but anyone who'd seen the screenshots, the math, the timeline, they knew. My inbox flooded. People shared their own stories. Daughters' sons, neighbors, home nurses. My brother stole $50K from our dad's account. My aunt took my grandma's disability checks for 3 years. Thank you for reminding me that silence doesn't protect the right people. Each message chipped away at that last layer of doubt I didn't even know I'd been carrying. Because for years I thought maybe I was the problem. Too sensitive, too serious, too stubborn. Turns out I was just done, and that's okay. Sadie deactivated everything. Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, even her Pinterest board disappeared. I heard she moved cities, started over. Same hustle, new audience. But the internet never forgets. A Reddit thread popped up, someone recognizing her from the original screenshots. The thread title: Wellness Coach or Pension Scammer. The top comment said it best. There's healing and then there's hiding. This looks like the second one. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. Josh, on the other hand, doubled down on delusion. Started some podcast called Blood First. A mix of half-baked rants about loyalty, masculinity, and how real men keep things in the family. Episode 1 was titled, When They Turn on You, Surviving Betrayal by Your Own Kin. The audio was so bad I couldn't tell if he was recording from a laundry room or a gas station. He had 7 followers. 4 of them were bots. But he kept going loud, desperate, convincing himself that if he just kept telling his version long enough, someone would believe it. Spoiler, they didn't. Meanwhile, my world kept getting quieter and richer. Not with money, though. My surgery finally happened, and yes, I cried when I stood up straight without pain for the first time in a year, but with peace, with time, with me. I'd spent so long being the family fixer, I forgot what it felt like to wake up without guilt as a default setting. Grandma noticed the change first. "You're not twitching in your sleep anymore," she said one morning while pouring cereal like it was no big deal. I twitched. You twitched, like someone waiting to be punched. We both laughed, but I knew she was right. I'd been living on edge for a decade. That's what happens when love feels conditional. When every hug is followed by a favor and every "I'm proud of you" hides a withdrawal slip. But that edge was dulling now. Every walk to the mailbox, every pot of tea we shared, every untouched voicemail from a number I no longer recognized. It was dulling, and I was healing. One afternoon, I went to a community center panel on elder care rights just to listen. But someone recognized me. "You're the guy from the story," the director whispered, eyes wide. She asked if I'd speak. "Just 5 minutes?" Nothing official. I froze, then nodded. I told the truth. Not the dramatic version. Just what happened, what it felt like, why I stayed. Why I didn't stay quiet. People clapped. Some cried. One woman hugged me like I'd saved her life. I went home shaken, but not in a bad way. I was finally using my voice, and not just to defend, but to build. The next big surprise came from Grandma. She was sitting at the table one morning with a small smile on her face and a file in front of her. "What's this?" I asked. "My will," she said. I blinked. "It's not because I'm dying," she added quickly. "It's because I'm living differently now." She handed me the documents. Clean, clear, legal. Everything in my name, except one line near the end. In the event Leo does not wish to keep the family house, it is to be donated to the City Housing Rehabilitation Project. In my name, I looked up. "You're giving them the house." "I'm denying them." "The house," she said. "That's different." She winked. And I swear I'd never loved her more. About a week later, I saw Kelly again. We were both in line at the post office pretending it wasn't the most depressing place on earth. She looked rested, like someone who'd finally stopped bracing for a fight. We got coffee afterward. She told me she'd passed her certification exam. She was starting a part-time gig at a nonprofit helping survivors of familial financial abuse. "I didn't even know that was a thing," she said. "Now I am that thing." She paused, looked down. "Josh's mom called me last week, told me I destroyed him. And I told her I'd rather destroy a lie than keep living inside one." I didn't say anything, just raised my coffee cup and tapped hers lightly. To peace, to clarity, to burning the right bridges, eventually fall came. The air cooled. The garden withered. Grandma knit 3 scarves in a week and insisted I wear all of them like some walking craft project. I didn't mind. Our lives weren't dramatic anymore. No court dates. No scandals. Just good days. Quiet ones, honest ones. But closure has layers, and mine wasn't done just yet. I got a letter from a cousin I hadn't heard from in years. One of the ones who used to watch everything from the sidelines, always neutral, always silent. Inside was a folded note. I wish I had your courage. I should have spoken up when they were draining her account. I knew I saw, but I said nothing. I hope one day you can forgive me for that. No return address, no signature, just that. And honestly, that meant more than any apology from my parents ever would. Because this one wasn't trying to erase what happened. It was finally naming it. I still don't know how to end a story like this. Because there's no fireworks. No final courtroom climax. No slow-motion walk into the sunset. There's just, today, a little more space in my chest where the guilt used to live. A little more light in the hallway when I come home and see Grandma reading with her glasses slipping down her nose. A little more me, not the version they liked. The version I reclaimed. A few months after the dust settled, I realized something strange. I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for texts, not for apologies, not even for updates on their lives. They became background noise. Echoes in a hallway I'd locked behind me. It didn't mean I forgot. It meant I refused to keep carrying what they dropped. Grandma and I built a little life. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't big, but it was real. Every Sunday we made waffles. Not because it was tradition, but because we liked it. We started a scrapbook, her idea. Photos of us of Edward the basil plant, RIP, of the little things we never documented before. She wrote silly captions under each one. Leo pretending he doesn't like this sweater but wearing it for the 4th day in a row. Me looking 20 years younger because peace is cheaper than Botox. We laughed a lot. And sometimes we cried. Not over what we lost, but over how long it took to realize we deserved better. One night while we were going through old boxes, she handed me a Polaroid. It was from a Christmas years ago, a blurry shot of the whole family minus me. I recognized the setting. The couch. The tree. The angle. It was my camera. I'd taken that photo, and they hadn't even asked me to be in it. I looked at her. She nodded slowly. I know, she said. I slid it back in the box. No need to burn it. I'd already walked out of that frame. Around that time, I got a message from a high school friend I hadn't spoken to in forever. She'd read the article, saw the panel video. She said her mom was going through something similar and didn't know how to talk about it. I remember you being the quiet kid, she wrote. I never thought you'd be the one to blow it all open. You're kind of a hero now. I stared at that sentence. Hero? Nah. I was just tired. Tired of nodding. Tired of watching the people I loved disappear every time I said no. Tired of building bridges for people who only showed up with gasoline. But maybe that's the thing about heroes. Maybe they're not always the loudest or the most perfect. Maybe sometimes they're just the ones who stay, even after being left behind. Late October. I finally visited the old house again. It wasn't ours anymore. We'd signed the paperwork and handed it off to the city housing board like Grandma wanted. They were turning it into transitional housing for seniors. As I stood outside watching the demo crew gut the inside, I saw it clearly for the first time, not as a home, but as a cage I had outgrown. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I just whispered, "Thank you," and turned away. Not to run, but to move forward. Somewhere in all this, I learned how to breathe again. Real breathing. The kind that fills your lungs without permission or apology. I started waking up without anxiety clawing at my throat. I started laughing without checking if someone was watching. I started writing again. Just for me, I hadn't realized how much of myself I'd shelved trying to be good. But being good never protected me. Being quiet didn't make them kinder. Being small didn't stop them from taking everything they could. So I got bigger. Not louder, bigger. In presence, in purpose, in peace. People asked me once the story got attention what the biggest lesson was. I used to say something polite. Family is complicated. Boundaries matter. Now I say this. If they only see you as useful when you're silent, your voice was never the problem. Grandma turned 84 that winter. We threw her a party with lemon cake and zero drama. She wore her lavender cardigan and made a toast that I'll never forget. To the ones who stayed, she said, glass raised, and the ones who finally realized staying doesn't mean suffering. Everyone clapped. But me, I just smiled, because for once I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I was already whole. Do they still talk about me? I'm sure. Sadie probably spins new stories with every boyfriend. Josh probably still thinks he's the victim. Mom probably still tells distant cousins. I brainwashed Grandma, but here's the difference. I don't need to correct them anymore. Because truth isn't always about being loudest. Sometimes it's about living in a way that makes the lies crumble on their own. Today I planted new basil. Named him Edward II, obviously. Grandma approved. The apartment smells like cinnamon and fresh air. Our fridge is full. The lights are paid for. The air is warm. There's no drama waiting in the shadows. No sudden text demanding money. No guilt in the cracks of my day. Just peace. Real peace. The kind that makes you look in the mirror and say, there you are. The version they tried to break. The version that stayed story 2. I spent $5,000 on a catering band, made a cake with his face on it, and gave my dad a surprise 65th birthday party. Barking. He snatched up the microphone. She is deserving of respect. Not you? My cousin grinned. You'll appreciate our candor one day. I left a box with a message playing and canceled the $27,000 I had paid for Laura's tuition that evening. I simply wished to express it. With a roar, my dad gripped the microphone as if it were a confession in court rather than a birthday speech. She is deserving of respect. Not you. The room fell silent, with champagne glasses stopped in midair, as if someone had struck pause on a scenario that shouldn't have ended this way. Everyone turned to gaze at me. He was indicating the sheet. Laura, my cousin? Last month, Laura, who had never worked a day in her life, contacted me in tears over her tuition, and I surreptitiously sent her $27,000 to fund her last year of college. I hadn't informed anyone because I didn't need a prize for carrying out the duty that families are expected to perform, not because I was humiliated. However, it seems that I was not a part of their family. My dad's arrogant face was painted in edible ink. As I stood beside the dance floor I had rented adjacent to the cake and the band I had hired, I spent more than $5,000 on catering and music for my unexpected 65th birthday celebration. In order for Aunt Diane to attend the venue was even made wheelchair accessible. Every invoice, every email exchange, every detail. I was the only one. And here he came from the back of the room, putting me under the bus once more. A shrill, tiny chuckle rang in my ears. You'll appreciate our candor. One day, my cousin replied with a smile and a raised glass. Sincere. Before I maxed up my credit card for this family, they would have told me they despised me. I said nothing at all. Simply grinned like they instructed me to do. Make it appear appealing. Avoid creating a commotion. But after the festivities ended that evening, I returned home, checked my bank account, and canceled the $27,000 payment I had just made for Laura's tuition when the lights had gone out and the dance floor was deserted. After that, I placed a little package outside her flat. There was a speaker inside the box. It played one audio file repeatedly when she opened it. Laura, you came up with this concept, not me. You stated it yourself. If we pretend to care, he's foolish enough to cover the cost. Well done. You were correct. Her tone. What she said recorded during a call 3 weeks ago that she neglected to sync with my smart assistant. My final present to my family was a surprise party. They were going to experience what it's like to intentionally lose me. Now, I wish I could claim that I was embarrassed by them. For the first time, I would lie if I claimed that the party was some strange anomaly, a negative episode in a relationship that was otherwise fine. In actuality, I've been teaching kids to treat me in this manner for years. Every last-minute rescue, every expense I paid, and every favor I offered. They learned that I was a resource rather than a human. Ryan is my name. I'm 28, engaged in digital marketing. In Austin, Texas, live alone. I earn a respectable salary, comfortable yet not wealthy. Perhaps that was the issue. They were, well, that I wouldn't refuse, especially her. I was close to Laura once. Or I believed that we were maturing. The strange cousins were us, constantly creating things. Coded notes. Phony spy societies and pillow forts. She spent some time living with my family when her mother passed away. I was 12. Everything changed when she was 9 years old. She was pampered like a glass doll by my parents. She's gone through a lot, according to my father, as though that justified every outburst and every guilt trip. All lies more. I discovered early on that crying has consequences, that quiet may be a weapon. I also gained some knowledge. There were restrictions attached to that love. I left college and moved out. Distance may be the solution, but when you're still on the family group chat, distance is obviously irrelevant. Little things were involved at start. Hello. Is it possible for you to cover Laura's books this semester? She's not very tall. Lori's laptop malfunctioned. Did you see her? It's finals week for her. She's interested in studying overseas. Flights are not covered by her scholarship, and each time I did it, no inquiries were made. My father was a joker. You are an excellent investment. She is going to be our doctor. She is a psychology student. Then, the more important things arrived. Her credit card bill and her rent, vet surgery and her therapy dogs. Always an appeal, always a narrative. And once the money cleared, there was always radio silence, but I continued to assist. I reasoned that they may notice me if I showed them enough affection. Not like the son of the ATM, not as the well-performing relative, only me. The celebration was important because of this. It was meant to be a restart, a reminder that I wanted to be there and that I choose them. I reserve the best available spot. Heart is a soul band. My father used to play vinyl music. This silly photo of him from the 1980s, complete with mullet, was on the cake. To expedite the fondant, I even paid more. I had to balance a freelance sidekick and work for 6 weeks while planning it. The instant he reached for the microphone, he spoke. That was all broken. I didn't shout though, didn't leave abruptly. I lifted my glass, grinned, and toasted to my family. I then informed the caterers that I had a migraine and departed early. I said a falsehood. I immediately went to my flat and began to work. You see, my cousin made a mistake. Back in college, we shared a Google Drive folder for a short film project. She didn't ever remove it. Her primary Gmail account was still connected to it. And you know what? They were connected to her Google Voice backups, her audio logs. The one I used in the package arrived in 10 minutes. The worst was yet to come. Like Ryan. She had messages so pitiful. He considers himself a hero for covering my tuition. Make him feel significant. He'll reimburse you. Simply explain that it's for emotional support or some other reason. He enjoys texting my aunt and playing savior. I was once informed that I was a blessing by her mom's sister, who laughed at how easily I could be manipulated. I went to complete the $27,000 transaction that same evening. It had not yet been resolved, canceled it. I then reported the payment as fraudulent and disabled. All linked accounts and shared cards. My mother contacted me from the break room at her hospital 2 days later. She works as a nurse, works the night shift. She sounded both worn out and worried. Have you canceled Lori's tuition? Ryan, I stopped, yes, quiet. She is inconsolable, I chuckled. No, she is vulnerable. Then the actual storm hit. My phone exploded. Uncle's voicemails and my dad's all-caps messages. You're destroying this family because of your ego, one of them remarked. Facebook comes next. Laura captioned a picture she shared of herself sobbing on a park seat. When someone you trust gives you the knife, it hurts the most. It received 12 and 143 likes. You're worthy of better remarks. She was making me the bad guy. I didn't answer. I became darker. Before they changed history, I copied all of the audio screenshots and transcripts and put them in a folder called That. I then forwarded it to one individual, the oldest brother of my dad. Uncle Pete, Nebraska, is where he resides. He seldom speaks to anyone, yet on my birthday, he was the only family member to call. Within an hour, he responded. I've known they were taking advantage of you. Do you want me to call? No, not yet. I said initially I wanted them to feel. My father texted me early the next morning. Give me a call immediately. Don't exacerbate this. I choose to disregard it. I shared a picture on Instagram that afternoon. I was standing in front of a huge whiteboard with a single statement scrawled on it, grinning. Your plan never included me. Just your typeface of choice in an emergency? Don't use hashtags. No background. 800 people shared it. They hadn't seen what I placed in her mailbox. So even if Laura removed her tearful post that evening, it wasn't over. The second box included a hard disk with the title, The Evidence You Forgot I Had. I was silent for a week as I waited. They caused pandemonium for a week. Every day my dad phoned 4 times. Laura attempted to email me while feigning composure and a want to heal. In a lengthy theatrical Facebook post, my aunt discussed how forgiving is a sign of maturity. The group conversation followed. My phone sprang to life. A new chat with family core. The first message was added by my name. Next Saturday is our dinner date. Dad wants to personally apologize. I gazed at it. I used to help them move paint the walls or fix the leaky roof, and then I would sleep on a couch after dinner at their house. All without compensation. Actually, I only typed one word. Yes. But on Saturday night, I wasn't coming by myself. I purposely arrived late. The door was opened by Laura Pale. Instead of her typical Instagram-ready outfit, she was dressed quietly in sweatpants. She stepped aside after giving me this shaky smile. I carried a small black duffel bag as I entered. The house had the same appearance, but there was a change in the air, tents that are heavy like it was Sunday. Brunch, my dad sat at the head of the table wearing his go-to polo shirt. My mother pretended to stir something that wasn't even cooking while she stood in the kitchen. "I'm glad you came." Stiffly, Dad said. "We wanted to make things clear." "Of course," I replied. "I brought something." For that reason, I took out a portable speaker after unzipping the bag. After placing it in the center of the table, I took out a thick folder with a red label. Sharpie uses footnotes to lie. Laura tensed. "What's that?" "Ryan?" my mom asked, her voice cracking a family scrapbook. "I said the parts you tried to delete." I clicked play and there it was, Laura's voice. "He's pathetic. He'll pay if I cry. Let him feel useful." My father blinked. My mother's hand went in her mouth, but Laura, she snapped. "That's taken out of context." I didn't even look at her. I pulled out the printed transcript, then the text screenshots, then the transaction log she sent to friends bragging about the easy cousin money. One where she wrote told him I was having a breakdown. "He paid for my semester in under 10 minutes. LOL. Then came the photos. My photos. Screenshots from my Gmail. Showing forwarded confirmation emails. Tuition payments. Textbook orders. All under my name. And the final touch. A screenshot from her shared Google Drive folder. A folder titled Backup Dirt. A collection of fake arguments she'd scripted. Just in case I ever tried to flip the narrative. I turned to my dad. "You said she deserves respect," I said. "You still think that?" His jaw clenched. He didn't answer, but someone else did. "Not anymore," said a voice behind me. Everyone turned. It was Pete. Uncle Pete! He stepped into the living room like he'd been waiting his whole life to do this. "I wasn't sure I'd come," he said, tossing a manila envelope on the table. "But after what you told me, I checked the records." "What records?" Dad growled. Pete smiled. "Like how you used Ryan's social security number to co-sign a loan back in 2021. Or how you applied for emergency COVID business relief under his name, or how you listed him as an employee of a company that doesn't exist." My father stood up. "You don't know what you're talking about." Pete didn't flinch. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a letter. "This is from the Department of Labor," he said. "They've begun an inquiry. You should probably contact them Monday." Quiet. Total choking. Quiet. My mom sat down slowly, saying, "Oh my God," under her breath, more backed against the wall like a trapped animal. That's when I spoke again. I used to believe I was simply overly sensitive. I said that if I gave enough, they'd adore me back, but you don't love me. You adore what I do for you. Then I turned to Laura. "And you're not broken, you're calculated, but now that your tuition hasn't been paid, you're broke. Additionally, I just sent the ethics board at your institution. Your emails. Enjoy telling the scholarship committee about this." I interrupted her as she attempted to yell something. "What's the worst thing you know?" I remarked as I moved to the door. I expected to feel depressed tonight. It doesn't. I stared at them all, stunned and ashamed, exposed. I feel liberated. I then left a last package on the coffee table containing a screenshot of the email I made withdrawing my co-sponsorship of their mortgage and a little piece of neatly folded paper. They had 60 days. I wish you luck. They believed I would vanish? I then take a break after that meal. Look through old family pictures. Do what I always done and keep in mind the pleasant moments. Retrace your steps, apologize for causing them discomfort, and give more of myself to them. However, I did not vanish, I simply vanished from their existence. I discreetly exited the family group chat that week. No drama, no message. Simply tapped. Get out. I was re-added. I went out once more. Laura then sent me a straight SMS. This is enough. You got your message across. Can we have a conversation? I didn't respond. Rather, I launched my banking app and stopped all of the payments. I now know that Mom's $900 monthly transfer, which was ostensibly for prescription drugs, actually went into spa services and plush towels that weren't soft enough. They terminated their internet bill. The account had my name on it. Not anymore, Laura. No longer had auto insurance. The line to her cell phone went out. When her phone died, she must have received the message. I pictured her trying to tap Apple Pay while waiting in line at a cafe. But nothing occurred. In her life, for the first time, a taste of financial quiet was given to her. My mom texted me 2 days later. Now I have no idea who you are. As I gazed at those phrases, I wondered if you had ever heard of it. Then the true twist appeared. The fraud department at my bank called me, not customer service. The real fraud department. It turned out that my dad had attempted to apply for a new line of credit using my social security number once more. According to the application, it was for roof repairs. I paid for the identical repairs 2 years ago. They wanted to know if I approved of it. That's identity theft, I said. His accounts were frozen by them. Each and every one. Everything connected to the request was investigated. His pension account has been frozen. His personal credit line has been reported for improper use. My father sent me this wonderful message that evening. I'm being destroyed by you. Over what a foolish speech during a gathering. Not only that, Dad, I had finished being. You are a walking creditor. You have finished playing a supporting role in your narrative. While you were tearing me down, I was cheering from the wings. The funniest thing followed, Nick. My cousin. Yes, that Nick. The one who grinned and toasted Laura, telling me that one day you'll appreciate our candor. I got a text from him. Hey dude, it was a crazy week. You mean there's no ill will? We remain family. I didn't respond. I pulled an audio clip from Laura's drive folder and sent it to him, his tone. Ryan is an 8 in disguise. All you have to do is press the guilt button. Rent and tuition. New phone. No fool even looks to see if you're telling the truth. He heard it. He did? I'm sure. He responded 5 minutes later. Please remove that, please. The message was not even opened by me. I didn't require retribution. I wanted the truth to be like hot coals sitting in their inboxes. My mom attempted to unintentionally run into me at my regular coffee shop a few days later. She remarked, Ryan, as she entered and seen me seated with my laptop. I remarked quietly as I looked up, apologies. These seats are occupied. She placed no orders. She simply turned and left. However, I was contacted by the actual consequences from Laura's institution. Her financing had apparently been taken away until she paid the remaining debt in full. Her degree was put on hold. My contact is still shown as the emergency payer. Do you want to resolve this for her? The administrator inquired. I chuckled. No, but thank you very much for calling that night. The voicemail was left by my mother. As I was brewing coffee, I listened to it. She spoke in a dramatic, unsteady voice. You won't truly, simply leave us where we are, even though we know we made errors. Before she could finish, I pressed stop. I was already aware of that. Parents are aware that you never had children. Leeches were what you were. You were debt collectors with a family name attached. The debt was due at this time. I thus printed the last bill. My utility account was still active. I only made one payment for the current period. For the final time, I then went to the payment confirmation, signed in, and turned off autopay. One of the memos I left would appear on their billing notification. Closure, not family, but the last payment. My phone number remained the same. I wanted to see them burn the final bridges themselves, not because I wanted to hear from them. They tried everything for weeks. Anger, guilt, threats, and finally sympathy. I once received a fuzzy picture of a sketch I did as a youngster from my mom with the comment, "You used to love us." I deleted it after staring at it for 5 seconds. When the circumstances are false, love isn't unconditional. My father, however, was unable to tolerate the quiet. He pretended to be my worried father and began informing people that I had a mental episode called My Workplace Inquiring into My Actions. HR called me in. I showed them voicemails, emails, and screenshots. They formally complained against him. He became desperate. He adopted a fictitious identity and a new phone number. Because of the grammar. I knew it was him. He always took advantage of you and excessive usage of ellipses. Your point has been made before it's too late. Come repair this. What is it too late for? It was not me who spiraled. Then the last straw appeared. There was a letter, nor a confession, nor an apology. A boilerplate legal form that accuses me of causing emotional distress to the family and threatens to take legal action unless I stop defaming people in public. It was signed by my father. He believed he could sue me to keep me quiet. I didn't even give my attorney a call. I got in my car, drove 2 hours to a post office in the country where no one knew who I was, and established a private limited liability company, LLC, something I had been putting off for years since I first had a sneaking suspicion of how far they would go. Not your blood. LLC is the moniker I used for everything property insurance and tax returns. Even my contacts for emergencies. I cleared their records, addresses, and phone plans. Of any traces of me, I had removed the last link. I then took one final action. I returned home by car. Not to yell, not to face them, just to look across the street at the wreckage. An automobile lights up silently within. Not in the kitchen, though. My dad was bent over the table, my mom was pacing, and I could see shadows moving. Bills most likely, caution. Most likely. All sides were silent. They once expressed their pride in me, in every Christmas letter. Use my name, told friends that he looks after us. What a blessing he is to them. However, I was not a son. Leverage was me. I thus left a farewell present. I posted a little red notice to their front door and crossed the street. Laminated everlasting. Unless intentionally removed, closed account was what it said. Out of service. No more justifications, no longer saving lives, no more Ryan. After that, I got into my car and drove off. I haven't heard from them since. Perhaps they finally got it. Perhaps they anticipate my return once I settle down. They don't understand, though. Anger is not what this is. Freedom is this. I don't check my phone in a panic when I wake up. I don't get sick when I pass an aisle of birthday cards. For those who use me as a tool with a pulse, I don't feel guilty. I now sleep all night long. Nothing happens to my bank account. My tranquility is unconditional. I passed a bakery close to my apartment the other day. A sign was displayed in the window, tiny, tidy, brutal. If someone treats kindness like money, we retain the right to turn them away. I chuckled. Then I entered. Black coffee, he said, looking directly at the cashier. Please a receipt and a double shot. Since I now preserve them, each and every one, story the 3, as well as my sister's engagement celebration. There were 13 of us, but the table was set for 12. Our uncle made a joke. There's always someone more. Everyone chuckled. I grinned, murmured, and glanced around. Extras can readily taken out. I got up and walked out without making a sound. The lights faded 40 minutes later. The staff began to pack up as the music ended. The entire gathering disintegrated. With a giggle, our uncle lifted his drink. There's always someone more. Everyone laughed as if it were a harmless joke. I scanned the lengthy table. Champagne flutes, linen napkins, and a 1,000er cake. Everyone dressed up as if the past didn't exist beneath their brand new cufflinks and manicures. I grinned, but not in a way that could be seen. Extras can readily taken out. I murmured quietly, pulled my chair back and left without making a sound. Nobody trailed behind. Not even my sister. Not my father. Not my mother. We were meant to be celebrating the woman's engagement. A frantic waiter I knew from high school called me 40 minutes later. What did you do, man? The party is disintegrating. What did he mean, I asked. He said that the employees had been instructed to leave. During the first dance, someone turned out the lights and the DJ left early. Good, I said, and ended the call. What? Nobody at that table was aware. My sister, with her phony grin and gleaming teeth, didn't even realize that I had spent months planning this departure. Not because I was seeking retribution. I was tired of being the family's handy shadow. Not because I was resentful. And it began long before the 5,000er loan and the engagement, prior to the post error that cropped me out of a family photo she had never paid back. Last Christmas, she stated, "You know you're not really needed," while looking me in the eye. However, I said nothing. I cooperated. The bills were paid by me when no one else would. I arrived. Like a decent brother or son. I swallowed my pride until I got called extra that night. like a razor. Cutting glass, that word echoed in my ears. You see, they refer to someone they've previously replaced as extra. Simply put, they haven't informed you yet. Furthermore, there is nothing left to lose once you accept that you have been replaced. There was no treachery in the beginning. It began with, "Are you able to assist only this once?" Emma's initial request for money? She sobbed. Said she didn't want her parents to know that her rent was past due. She wanted some time to herself after losing her work. That afternoon, A sent her a $1,200 wire. She didn't bring it up again. She texted a second time. "It's only $300 on Friday. I will pay you." The following month began on that Friday. That month became an eternity. I never refused. That turned into the issue. The oldest brother was me, the retreat. The net under the circus with the family. I lived close enough to call when the internet bill was due, but far enough away to be forgotten. When Dad underwent knee surgery, I had to buy a stronger brace because my insurance didn't cover it. Mom mentioned that she intended to give Emma a new automobile as a birthday surprise. When their heat went out in January, I co-signed the lease. At 2 in the morning, my Venmo buzzed, and each and every time, the same quiet or worse was the answer: entitlement. I initially convinced myself that it was love, and that this was what families did, that perhaps people would view me as a person rather than a resource if I simply continued to provide. I was mistaken. Emma's engagement was the first real crack. I came onto a nicely made video on Instagram. Her fiancé was kneeling with a ring the size of my rent as she pretended to be shocked on a rooftop. The caption said, "Case popped." A drone circled. I answered yes, and I'm excited to celebrate with the people who are most important to me. For 5 minutes, I gazed at it, wondering if I had missed a call I hadn't. That night, the group chat blew up. Not that one. In another one, Mom unintentionally sent a screenshot intended for the other thread, the one with the inner circle label, which is how I found out. It didn't include me. The supper followed. When I arrived, I received an impromptu invitation to a small family gathering at our aunt's. Emma flinched as if I had trampled her bridal gown. Hey, I had no idea you were coming." While pouring wine, our uncle made loud jokes at the table. "We are 13. There's always someone more." Everyone chuckled. I didn't. After looking through my credit card history, I became aware of the money trail. Evie's florals cost $200, $800, $150 for a $600 event space deposit, custom cake design. On a card I hadn't used in 6 months, all charges were made. During the pandemic, I gave my parents this card, just in case I dialed the charge sheet number. "Jenna from Evie's Events is here. Is this the ideal number to verify Emma's remaining wedding bouquets?" I didn't respond. I just hung up. 2 days later, I opened Facebook and saw my name mentioned but not tagged. A distant cousin had commented on Emma's bridal shower photos. "Can't wait to meet your brother." "Finally," Emma replied. "Oh, you won't. He's not involved in this part of my life. Not invited, not wanted, but my bank statements beg to differ." The final straw. The group gift. A week before the engagement party, I got a cheerful email from my mother. "We're all chipping in for Emma's honeymoon." Surprise. "Since you live far, I've put you down for $1,000. Just transfer it when you can. Love you." I didn't reply, but I didn't explode. Not yet. I watched. I collected not files or audio, just screenshots, receipts, emails. Real-time, proof of how they saw me. Like the text from Dad to Emma. "Don't worry." I told him he was working that weekend. "You won't come." Like the message from my fiancé to his friend. Her brother's intense. "Just don't bring him up." Her family says he's a drama magnet, like Mom's post. "So proud of our little girl. This wedding is for the family, the ones who were always there and still." I kept paying until the engagement party. It was held at a vineyard just outside the city. Linen tables, string lights, live music, a guest book station with a vintage typewriter. I drove up in silence. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I was tired of saying it to people who weren't listening. The place was set for 12. I was number 13. Uncle Someone's always extra laughter. I scanned the table. Am I in white? Mom. Glowing dead? Already have drunk friends, cousins, distant aunts all smiling. No one looked at me. I smiled anyway. Extras can readily taken out, I remarked and stood up. I walked out, nor dramatically nor fiercely, just done. 40 minutes later, the venue lost power. The DJ stopped mid-song. The personnel indicated the payment authorization had failed. Something about a restricted card and a blacklisted account. The champagne serving ceased. The cake never made it to the table. The photographer packed up and went unpaid. And then someone examined the booking contract. It had been canceled, not last minute. Weeks ago. I didn't sabotage anything. I simply turned off the tap. I was the one paying for it all. It just failed to notice, or perhaps they believed that the money would continue to come in if I was invited or not. However, they lost more than just a visitor when I left. Their wallet was gone. They were no longer silent, and they had a lot more to lose. As if it were a peace offering, they purchased the tickets, seats in the front row at a sold-out game state. Rivals against the local team. My dad used to boast about seeing this type of game with true fans rather than followers. My mother sent me the SMS. Let's begin anew. Everybody's seats were ours. Come watch the game, please. Drink a beer. Not a drama. You are missed. Not a drama. It was adorable. Yes, I replied. Not because I want a new beginning. Clean and loud was how I wanted things to end. Emma was already posing with her dumb foam finger and snapping pictures as if nothing had occurred when I arrived at the gate. Mom dressed in her finest our family remains together. Grin as a bribe. Dad gave me a hot dog. Have fun. Already, he said. I took a seat 2 seats away from them, halfway back to his seat. Not for petty reasons due to habit. The only thing that ever kept me sane was distance. The game's first half was a haze of fake cheese and awful beer. Yelling. As if he were the coach, Dad screamed at the referee. Emma used the caption, "Family Night Blessed," to live broadcast her responses. Since they couldn't run and halftime was approaching, I waited. Even though I didn't exist in her picture when there were huge queues for food and a large number of people, I got up 15 minutes before to the break and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. Let's have a bite to eat. I want to say something. Dad seemed perplexed. Mom tensed. Emma rolled her eyes. To get to the concessions we walked, the smell of old ketchup and spicy fries filled the air. I chose a table close to the corner so that witnesses could see it even if it was away from the commotion. Then I began to speak. You want tranquility. You wanted to have a family-like conversation. All right, let's do it. However, I no longer do things your way. Through her straw, Emma laughed. Will you be giving another speech like this? I reached into my pocket, took out my phone, and pressed to open a folder. Look at this. I turned the screen in their direction. $600, cake, $1, $50, venue deposit, and $800 and $2,000 flowers. Mom blinked. Dad opened his mouth. But my card didn't release anything. Sincerely yours. It was the same card that was intended to be used only in an emergency. Do you recall that, Mother? Her gaze was fixed on the table. I never even received an invitation. But you allowed me to cover the party expenses. Dad made an effort. We were unaware. That is untrue. I interrupted. You were aware. You relied on me. I didn't check. You relied on me. Always paying for it and keeping quiet? I looked across at Emma as well as you. You still list self-made in your Instagram bio. But when you couldn't hold a job longer than a TikTok fad who was paying your rent for 6 months in a row, when your stupid cryptocurrency scam failed, who helped you out? Emma's face became white. It's not necessary to be harsh. Not that I'm being mean. Calm and clear, I said. I'm being precise. I opened the registry for her fiancé. Look familiar. Have these presents been delivered to your home? I paid for it. You never expressed gratitude to me. You didn't even inquire. I was already switching the phone back to Dad when she opened her mouth to speak. And this, I showed the others a screenshot of a group chat where his name was displayed. Do not extend an invitation to him. Everything is awkward because of him, I said, raising my voice. You're referring to the man who covered your last 3 trips. The person you never call when you need a family photo, but always call when the car breaks down? Dad got red in the face. It was a joke. No. A joke is always extra for someone. I bent over. It was my responsibility to ensure that the bills were paid. It happened. Your faces continued to smile. And when I stopped giving out money, I became a liability. An outsider. People had begun to search. 2 tables down is a woman wearing a jersey. Lifted her eyes from her nachos. One of the children in line looked around. I didn't care, though. One of the witnesses is me. You brought me here in the hopes that I would behave and accept the complimentary ticket. Sit quietly and act as though nothing is wrong. Emma hissed. But I'm not here to behave. You're creating a scene, God. No, I said. I'm making a record. I stood, lifted the phone to eye level, and hit send to all of them. Mom's phone bust. That's Emma's. The notification lit up like synchronized fireworks. What is this? Mom asked, tapping. It's your ledger, I said. A complete history of everything I paid for every time you asked. Every time I said yes, and every time you pretended it never happened, I looked at them one by one. I've shut down the shared accounts. But the automatic payments, the wedding expenses, gone. The apartment lease. I co-signed, terminated the utilities. You'll need to switch them to your names by Friday, Emma gasped. You can't just... I can... And I did. Dad slammed his drink down. You believe money gives you the right to disgrace us? You believe that makes you better than your own family? No, I said. I suppose lying to someone's face while wasting their money makes you dishonest. And I'm done funding disrespect. Silence. Then Mom said gently, You'll regret this. I gazed at her like I was seeing her for the first time. No, you'll regret trying the one person who ever protected this family from imploding. I turned to go. 1 step 2 then stopped, I added. Oh, and thanks for the ticket. The seat will remain with me, but I'll sit by myself from now on. As the second half began, I made my way back into the stadium. The audience let forth a yell. I didn't turn around. They were still seated at that sticky plastic table somewhere behind me. Their phones stuffed with evidence. Bank statements. Was the first time in years that they realized their free ride was gone. I wasn't paying for it. I was leaving clean. After the game, I didn't get in touch with them. No calls, no messages, and no drama. And that quiet. No scream could possibly do as much damage as it did. I received my first email 3 days after leaving the stadium. Not from Emma. Not from my mother. From my father. Subject line, let's act like grown-ups here, buddy. We understand that you were unhappy, feelings were running high. Let's avoid getting out of hand. Let's have a conversation. I didn't respond. I sent it to my attorney. I didn't have to take them to court. All I had to do was warn them of the consequences. If I did, Noah, my lawyer, wasn't ostentatious. He was the type of man who said things like, let's solve this efficiently, while sporting beige ties. In addition to thorough bank records, payment confirmations, and a cover letter so frigid it could have frozen bone, he composed a 3-page package. The material that is provided details the unlawful use of Mr. Fraud deception and unjust enrichment are among the financial practices that fall under my last name. If repayment does not start within 10 business days, we are ready to take official legal action to collect. He certified it and demanded a signature before sending it to their home address. They put their signature on it. 5 more days passed before I heard anything. Then the cash began to flow in the first $300, then $1, $100. Subsequently, $8,600 was paid in one big sum indicating half repayment. I apologize for any confusion. Perplexity. I emailed a screenshot to Noah. That following day, he followed up with them. Kindly note that the word partial does not apply. The entire sum cannot be negotiated. I get the remainder in 2 weeks. All the money I spent on Emma's wedding. I had paid for everything throughout Dad's difficult months. Rent payments, food presents, and all utility expenses. Even her engagement celebration cupcake tower. They made any payments, no lawsuits, no court orders, just be afraid. Fear that if they didn't, I may do something. They never acknowledged their wrongdoing. Not once Emma sent me a 1-line message and $2,000 in total, only attempting to make things better. I gave it back. My deal had already arrived. She wasn't using guilt interest to buy her way out. Mom made an effort to soften. It left a voicemail in the tremulous, dejected tone she used when her father shouted too loudly, "Can't we simply move on from this, honey? The money has been returned. Are we unable to proceed? Go ahead." After playing the message twice, I erased it. She never even looked back at it, but she wanted to go on. I stayed in town. My phone number remained the same. I only made one modification. My guidelines. Don't do any more favors. Sunday dinners are over. No more smilingly using family as a justification for stealing, I responded. You already got your gift. When Emma texted me a week later to ask if I could attend her birthday dinner. There was interest in it. She kept it set to read. They made another attempt. This time it was a letter from my dad written by hand. 2 pages. Nice, cursive. The opening line. I didn't intend for things to progress this far, they always want to get away with it, so I stopped reading there. They simply don't intend for you to notice my life is tranquil now. The cafe on 6th and Main, the same apartment, the same neighborhood. However, no one knocked on my door, no last-minute crises. Not surprisingly, you're welcome. Price tags added to texts. I occasionally walk by my fiancé in the city center. He notices me. Turns away. Excellent. He ought to. I ran into my mother outside the pharmacy one afternoon. She looked aside. I continued to walk. They returned my money. However, they will never return me. I discovered a note beneath my door one evening. No stamp slid beneath. Like the confession of a coward. No salutations. Only one phrase. Despite our shortcomings, we are all still human. I gave a little smile. The next morning, I put it under their door after writing one phrase back. Stay together? I'm leaving. Before she knocked, I heard her. The same cautious steps up the stairs. A stop in front of the entrance. 2 piercing knocks followed, the kind that should not be disregarded but rather heard. Emma never rang but always knocked. She was aware that I would disregard a doorbell, but a knock was personal. It pleaded for gifts. I pulled the door open. There she stood. No rings, no armor, no makeup, just a glance and 2 little jackets. Just before she asked for something, I recognized the one she wore. Prior to the manipulation taking effect, she said, I'm not here to ask for money. It's new, I said. She did not chuckle. I wanted you to consider it, which is why I came, concerning the wedding. How about it? I'd like you to attend quiet. It will not be a big one, not a drama. Only close relatives. I want you to come too. I remained still. She went on. I am aware of our error. I made a mistake, but I don't want my future children to grow up in a dysfunctional household. I still consider you my brother? No, I said. Up until the account froze, I had your back. She winced. The statements were accurate, not because they were painful. She went on. I'm not proud of what happened. However, I'm working to put things right. The past cannot be changed. Perhaps I interrupted her, though. When I stood at a table set for 12 and discovered I was the 13th, you uploaded a family photo and cut me out, deducting $200 from my card and signing the invoice under someone else's name. Your wedding had already taken place. The extra. She turned her head away, now as if everything had been erased. You arrived with an invitation. I gave a head shake. You're not giving me tranquility again. You're giving me the same quiet. I'm attempting, she muttered. Emma, you didn't lose a sibling. You just seen what happens to him when he no longer acts as a convenience. She remained still. Pressed lips. I went to the closet, took out a blank white envelope and used a black pen to write 4 words on the front. Send it back to the sender. Between us, I set it on the table. My RSVP, is that? Bring it along. She left it alone. Nothing was touched by her. I had a thought she started but was unable to complete. She approached the door, touched the handle, and took one quick glance back. You will know where I am if anything changes. When she was gone, I murmured, exactly behind me. I didn't immediately close the door. I listened to her footsteps fading down the stairs while I stood there. Then there was a car beginning, and then there was nothing. I took the envelope and put it in my drawer. As a reminder, not as a recollection. I received a notice the next day. Their apartment's utilities were no longer associated with my name. A bank warning follows. The entire amount owing has been paid back. I co-signed a car loan years ago and it was cleared and retitled 3 days later. No more obligations. Bills or assistance. I prepared coffee and quiet on Sunday. Outside. It was pouring. Her wedding was not on my mind. I kept the past out of my mind. I simply sat there and took a deep breath. It was worth every moment, even if it cost me years. I went to the post office that evening and requested that they print a fresh label for my mailbox. Not very fancy. No family requests are permitted. The typeface is basic and the letters are black. I was not lost by them. I was exhausted by them. I'm bankrupt now too. Not in cash inside, and I owe them nothing for the first time in my life.